So, Taylor Wettach, thanks a lot for taking the time to talk with me. We
Thanks,
spoke
Mark.
last summer, but just for my readers who didn't see that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I appreciate Laura. Really appreciate the chance to be able to speak with you today again. And of course, I've been a fan of your work for a very long time, so it's always fun to be able to connect. So for background, I'm Taylor Wettach. I'm a seventh generation Iowan. I'm from Muscatine, Iowa, and I'm running for state auditor because I believe that public service should be about service and responsibility, not greed and self-protection. My former life, I was an attorney, was at a major law firm. As some folks know, my firm got targeted by the Trump administration as part of an effort to hem in the rule of law and to stop legal challenges to what they were focusing on. And so I made the decision to leave that. Have now decided to jump into this race because I believe that with what's happening right now, the last thing folks should have to worry about when they're struggling just to get by is whether or not their tax dollars are going to be used efficiently and effectively. And right now, instead of making life better for Iowans, politicians like Kim Reynolds and Chris Conoyer are really rigging the system and trying to stop the auditor's office from doing what it needs to do to have the oversight capabilities it needs to protect the taxpayer. So I'm excited to jump in this fight, excited to take all my background and to support folks here in Iowa.
Can you talk a little bit about how your legal training and background would be helpful for the state auditor?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. As an attorney, I spent my career negotiating with major corporations and the federal government, and my job was to analyze complex records, to evaluate evidence, to produce fact-based findings that could hold up under scrutiny. So that's exactly what the state auditor is meant to do on behalf of Iowa taxpayers. I understand that audits and investigations have to be rigorous, that they have to be independent, that they have to be strong enough to lead to accountability and real consequences when taxpayer dollars are misused, no matter who is responsible. I think that will be of real value for us in this fight. I think otherwise, beyond that, the fact that I had experience in my work reviewing lots and lots of complex financials of multi-billion dollar companies, negotiating multi-billion dollar agreements will be of real value as well in kind of bridging that background in terms of law, but also my background in terms of financial literacy. But I do think that one thing that I really want to highlight that is of real importance to us is given the nature of this role, that it's supposed to be an independent watchdog that follows the money no matter where it might lead. As I mentioned, my background as an attorney, when my law firm was targeted by Trump, and they decided to cave. I didn't cave, and I quit the firm. And I think most of all, that's what we need in this role. We need somebody that will follow the money, will do what needs to be done, and will go after anyone who seeks to pervert our system, be it a Republican or a Democrat or independent. Anyone who is going to break the law, anyone who is going to take away the taxpayer dollar. And really prevent our system from working as it should. And I'm excited to fight that fight.
Well, I appreciate that you left that law firm rather than bending the knee to Trump.
Yeah.
When Rob Sand was first running for state auditor in 2018, one of the things he talked about was he really wanted to do an audit of the state's Medicaid privatization. Are there any particular agencies or programs that you feel are important to audit if you're elected?
Yeah. I think one big area of focus, which of course has been in the news, is really following the money on the school voucher program. I think a lot of folks are concerned about how that program does not have the oversight it is supposed to have. It has been kind of uniquely carved out and protected from efforts to make sure that money is being used as it should. And that's been a real problem, I think, for a lot of folks, is a real concern for a lot of folks. And the state auditor should be able to follow the money no matter where it leads, right? It should be not limited based on program, but it needs to be able to do its job because if the state auditor isn't doing the job there, no one else is doing that job. So that would be a big focus for us, I think, in terms of making sure that all the money is being spent as it should be. But beyond that, right, I think I want to just emphasize that when I talk about that issue, it is relevant to, I think, the concerns of a lot of folks. But the bigger thing is really that the state auditor should be able to do the work it is supposed to do. Should not be limited in being able to follow the money. And as you know well, and as a lot of I think our viewers and listeners will know well, in 23, folks went in and limited the auditor's ability under law to do what it is supposed to do, limit its ability to get the evidence it needs, limit its ability to have judicial review of that of the decisions that it is making, and that is a real problem. So I think a big focus for us will be making sure that no matter where right the money might lead, no matter where the evidence might lead, the auditor can do its job, and we're hoping to make sure that we can rebuild those foundations for it to do its job.
And that was something that Rob Sand has emphasized. He's been asking the legislature to roll back that
Yeah.
2023 law. I don't know if you had a chance to review his other legislative priorities, the things he asked the legislature to do. I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about any of those.
In particular, in terms of
Uh,
like,
There's one of his ideas is that there should be mandatory prison sentence of at least some length if you are convicted of misallocating or embezzling at least $10,000 or more.
yep, yep, I agree with that position. I think probably most folks in our state would agree with that. It's I think it really is pretty wild that we've gotten to a point where there are folks out there that want to diminish the ability of the office to do its job, to make sure that folks that break the trust of the taxpayer are not being able to, are limited in terms of what they, what they are allowed to do. I think it's pretty wild that we're at that point. I'm in favor of strengthening, the office to be able to pursue fully its requirements under law, to be able to do that, and that does include making sure that we have the right sort of punishment and discouragement for folks that might seek to break the law. And I think beyond that, there's other things too we need to do. We need to make sure that, as I mentioned, obviously that it can do its job under law, which
Mhm.
has been under threat, but also that has the resources to do that. That has been a big challenge for that office. Funding for the office is below where it was in 1990. And we all know that the challenges have not gotten any less. Challenges, if anything, have gotten more. Our government is more complex. The needs of Iowans are in many ways greater and greater right now. And so, we need to make sure that the office can follow the money, can have the legal wherewithal to do its job, can have the resources to do its job, and also to make sure that, we have the proper punishments that dissuade folks from engaging in waste, fraud, and abuse and corruption.
I want to ask about a few other policies that Rob Sand instituted and just wondering if you would change those in any way or continue those. The PI program, the Public Innovations and Efficiencies.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal program. I think it's done a really good job of encouraging new efficient ideas and doing it in a way that I think a lot of people have been excited by. I would like to see further support there. Like to see further expansion of that program, and part of that, of course, comes down to resourcing as well. I would say to that point, it has been mentioned by Lieutenant Governor Chris Knoyer that she would like to take some of the lessons of Doge and apply that to the office. I think that Pi is a perfect example of where we can build efficiencies without cutting the office to the bone, right? Which I think is really more what Chris Knoyer is talking about when she says that she wants to bring that sort of efficiency in there. Well, the office already doesn't have the funding to do the work that it needs to do, and there are ways to build efficiency without really cutting the office to the bone. And so I'm excited to find ways to expand, get the resourcing there and support efforts like Pi. Another thing that I've really appreciated that Rob has done, which I think we'll really want to focus on, and for folks that have followed me in my prior activities, they'll know that this is a real calling card for me, is expanding the focus of the office and providing support for rural areas, for small communities. Rob has done a good job of supporting that, and trying to expand efforts there to make sure that that support is there. And that for me would be a big focus as well. I think we need to make sure we're providing those supports.
I think that was kind of going to be my next question because that was another policy that he instituted was I think if you've been working for the office for at least a year, you can work for the state auditor's office living anywhere in the state of Iowa. You don't have to be in the Des Moines area. So
Yeah,
it sounds like that's something you're supportive of.
100%. I think that's really, really important. That is important, I think, not only for, for keeping the best and brightest folks in that office, which, especially at a time when we're really not giving the office the resources it needs, I think, is a real priority. But I think by having that sort of more expansive lens, right, expansive foundation for the office and for its engagement, it allows the folks that are working in the office to be more actively plugged in to local communities. It helps folks understand the significance of this office. It helps folks understand kind of where they might need to put their resourcing and perspective by really having folks spread out throughout the state. So that's something that I think is really important and something I would also want to continue to support and reinforce.
You spent about 6 months running for Congress. Can you talk about some of your takeaways from spending months on the campaign trail and you were all over Southeast Iowa?
Yeah, yeah. I think, a couple of things come to mind that really stood out to us. One is the depth of the economic concern that folks really have right now. And I think, I think about how uh, we're getting hit by so many issues, so many challenges. It really feels like Iowa is at the front line of that combination of issues. By that I mean, obviously, we're facing the sorts of inflationary challenges that folks are facing across the country. But when our economy is directly dependent upon agriculture, 22% of our economy is directly dependent upon agriculture. With these crazy tariffs that we're facing right now, I think we are just being especially hit by what's happening. And so that is a big concern, obviously, for good reason for folks across the state. And we kept hearing things about that time and time again. And then frequently from that, we hear folks talking about the need to have the services that they're due. And that brings us directly back to the role of the auditor. There are folks that are trying to diminish the ability of the auditor's office to pursue things efficiently, but frankly also in efforts to just cut the government as it exists today in ways that I think frankly are not focused on efficiency, but are really focused on making sure they can provide tax cuts for the most wealthy. A lot of folks really feel like the system we're having right now is rigged against them. And I do think that the nature of the auditor's role is one that can be and should be a real foundation for protecting folks in especially difficult times like we're facing right now. And another big thing we hear a lot from folks is their concern to that point, then, in addition to the economic rigging, the rigging of our political system, the rigging of our government, the feeling that they could not trust government, the feeling that they could not trust that government was going to look out for them, that it would be a system that was not just for those that have a lot, but everybody else. And I think that also aligns well with the focus that we have in this honors race. There's a lot out there that is being, I think, frankly, covered up, massaged by folks in power, and they need to know that there's somebody that's going to be independent and will fight for them. And I think to that point as well, it's really important to emphasize that when we talk about fighting for them, it's not just in following the money, for wherever it leads to Republicans, but whether it leads to Democrats as well, right? This office is supposed to be an independent watchdog. The questions it faces are not questions of left versus right; they're right versus wrong. And so, I'm hopeful that folks will understand the importance of keeping this an independent office that can follow the money and do the work it's supposed to do for them.
I need to ask a few campaign nuts and bolts
Yeah.
questions. You've only been in this race for a couple of weeks. I mean, how is the signature collection going? Because it's a different bar for a statewide candidate than for
Yeah.
a congressional candidate.
That is a great question. Yeah, we have a lot of work that we obviously had to do once we jumped in this race, had to get moving really, really quickly. But we, very, very, very quickly got out to talking with folks all across the state. Folks in every county have been excited to see somebody jumping in this race, have been super supportive of making sure that we get the signatures we need to get on the ballot. So we're really hopeful that we'll be able to do that. We've made a lot of progress, obviously, with the caucuses that happened this past week. That was super helpful for us. And we're going to be spending whatever time we need to do to get out throughout the rest of the state to make sure that we have everything in hand to get there. And beyond that, we're just looking forward to really getting throughout this district. I made a real focus throughout the state. I made a real focus in my prior activities of making sure that I went everywhere, talked to everyone, and really, kind of built things from the ground floor up. And that's a big focus of us in this race. We think it's really important to make sure that people understand, no matter where they're at, the value of the auditor and what this office can do for them, and that we're going everywhere and building that. So, off to a great start with Signature Connect Collection, but we're also really excited to go everywhere we can to make sure we continue to wrap that up well and to listen to folks all throughout the state.
Are you planning a 99 county tour, or at least the whatever that would be, the 79 counties that you haven't already spent a lot of time campaigning
Yeah,
in?
yeah. Well, I don't want to get way too ahead of myself on that
Okay.
right now. I think we have a lot of work to do just to get things moving on the ground. But we've already been going beyond our district that I'm from.
Mhm.
Spent some time up in Des Moines in the Des Moines area. This past week we'll be up around Ankeny coming up next week, and looking forward to getting out throughout the state as much as we can. I think folks will be excited to see the athletic campaign that we will be doing throughout the state and making sure we're earning every vote.
Is there anything I didn't ask that you think would be important for people to know about you or your campaign?
Well, I think you've asked really, a lot of the questions. Obviously, we all know, Laura, that you are one of the sharpest observers of Iowa politics. So just grateful always to be able to get your perspective. And when I hear your questions, it helps me focus in on what I need to be focusing in on. But I guess just to close things up, I'd emphasize that for me, as far as I see this race is not about left versus right. It's really about right versus wrong and whether government is going to work for every Iowan or just for the most powerful insiders that might want to rig the system against the rest of us. And I made the choice to get into this fight and to run because I believe that Iowans deserve an independent watchdog who will tell the truth, who will follow the money, who will stand up to power and never forget who they work for. So I'm committed to earning every vote, and I hope folks will consider us over the next 9 months and will join us in this fight to make sure that we have an auditor that will stand up for all Iowans.
And where can they find you online if they want to know where you're going to be or what you're up to?
Yeah, so we are on the internet. Our website is Wettach for Iowa. You can spell that Wettach. We run into the Buttigieg challenge there because of the spelling and the pronunciation of my name. But hopefully, folks can find us there. We are on Mobilize as well. My wife runs our social media, so we're on really all social media. Hope folks will follow us there as
And
well.
what's your handle on the social media side?
Reddit for Iowa, I believe, on all of our social media. Hopefully folks will find us there, leave a few comments, give us a follow, and yeah, looking forward beyond that, really just to meeting folks across the state. I really really enjoy hearing people's stories and getting their perspective, and I think this is an office where folks have really understood the importance of it over the past few years, and we're hoping to continue to make sure that folks understand the significance of it in the years to come.
Taylor Wettach, candidate for state auditor. Thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Laura. Appreciate all that you do, and always grateful for the chance to speak with you.